Kingdom campfires, they burn so bright. God guides us with His holy light. Entrepreneurs with faith so bold, transforming the marketplace, co-creating kingdom gold.
Hey guys, welcome to Kingdom Campfires podcast dedicated to marketplace wisdom and kingdom transformation. I'm your host, Michael Woodfield, and for the next few minutes, I want to invite you around a campfire-style, authentic conversation as entrepreneurs and leaders just like you share their journey of seeking first the kingdom of God and co-laboring with Him in the marketplace. Kingdom Campfires is sponsored by Sprint Wins, a system that helps you launch your own personalized AI marketing assistant that's customized to meet your specific business needs in just one day. Imagine having your own AI virtual assistant that's specifically trained to reduce your workload so you can see quick wins with quality lead generation, client acquisition, standing out in an oversaturated market, and scaling growth and profits all on autopilot. To learn how to set up and launch your own marketing assistant, visit sprintwins.com today. Today's guest is Steve Cohen, and he's from Utah. Steve is the founder of Now Found and Never Too Lost to Be Found, where he helps those who feel spiritually and emotionally lost by guiding them to distinguishing God's voice and build biblical confidence. He also supports authors through the writing and publishing process, offering inspiration and practical assistance. Steve is passionate about spreading hope and healing through his work and connecting with those seeking to share their stories. Steve Cohen, welcome to the Kingdom Campfires podcast. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with our first question. How has Matthew 6:33, seeking first the kingdom, played out practically in your business decisions?
Thanks. Man, I actually love talking about this topic of seeking the kingdom because it's so often much more than just looking forward to going to heaven when we die, right? The Greek word, the one that we translate into kingdom there, basala, or however you actually say it, I'm not great at my Greek right now, but it really means royal power or dominion. What it's talking about is like Yeshua's His power in our lives, right? And then that verse 6:33, and keeps on going on, talks about seeking out righteousness, which also a lot of times doesn't mean what we think it means. One of its definitions really points more towards integrity or virtue or purity in our lives. And at Now Found Publishing, we are a whole lot more than just publishing. We were talking about that before we got on the call, right? But in everything that we do, it's about seeking how God would have us minister or love or help and support everybody around us. And I think that that's one of the most important parts is as we're seeking the kingdom, it's really about seeking what He wants us to do. It's His guiding power that helps us kind of go through the reality, whether it's helping somebody publish a book, taking a story or a concept and bringing it all the way through publication, whether it's helping consult people with their company, whether that's through their vision casting, the story or the message that they're trying to convey, or if it's even just personal counseling. We do biblical counseling as well, where we're helping people, entrepreneurs, go through these difficult times of starting a business, processing all of the things that actually happen as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's a much needed thing where we can have people that can partner with us, because sometimes you can get out here and you just feel like you're all alone. But if you're looking at the process of growing your business and overcoming the challenges, how do you discern between a business challenge that you can overcome versus a door that God is closing?
Man, that's vital. Because as business owners, when are we not actually facing challenges, right? I think that's almost one of the major functions of entrepreneurs is figuring out how to navigate these challenges. So I'll give you a great example. We recently moved to Utah. We were talking about that. Used to be in Texas, just moved to Utah last October. And we're here to plant churches and help other people plant churches through a sustainable ministry or business model, through coffee shops and creameries, where the coffee shop and creamery has space for the church to meet and grow in. And we planned on having our first location open April 1st of this year. Here we are, May, nothing. No locations, haven't actually knocked down or nailed down a place to actually go. And when we came here, we had 10 to 20 people that were all on board with us. They loved the vision. They loved the mission. They all were supporting us. They said that they'd do anything to help out. And every single one of them, like we had one person that was telling us they were going to donate cabinets and all the machinery for the coffee supplies, for the coffee shop. And then what ended up happening, as soon as the rubber started hitting the road, right as we started, we almost signed contracts on a location. Everyone got extremely busy. Everybody was overwhelmed with their own personal things, or one of the people actually ended up started ghosting us. And I was like, these are dear friends of ours. And I can take that and I can internalize that. I can listen to the enemy of my soul and say, oh, these people don't care about us. They don't support us. They don't see the vision. They don't care about what God's doing in Utah, right? But I know that that's not the case. These people are dear friends of ours. They're people that love us. So I started asking God, I was like, okay, all of this stuff's happening. I'm going to assume it's for a reason, right? And when he showed me, when I asked him that, was the Israelites walked in the desert. Now, I hope that this isn't a 40-year pause that we're on, but they walked in the desert for 40 years. And we so often concentrate just on the fact that they did that and they were messing up for 40 years. But what God showed me in this time when I asked him that is he said the promised land wasn't ready. And I was like, wow. Like what would have happened had they entered the promised land prior to it being ready? Whether they had forced themselves to go there? What if they didn't actually follow God's leading, right? So I think that while, yes, we have challenges or hurdles or doors that are being closed, I don't think that they're just stop or go situations. You're right or wrong. You're doing what you're supposed to do or not doing. I think that I'm not saying that God's controlling us this way, but I think that there's also like a fast forward and remind button that we need to think about, but also there's a pause button. And sometimes in our lives and in our businesses, I think he wants us to just pause and wait on him, seek him and ask him what he's doing. Is he getting something ready? Did we mess up something and do we need to go back? Do we need to spend time with him and abide with him and go and ask him for what's going to happen in the future? That's that fast forward and rewind. So I think that one of the keys to understanding this, is it a shut door? Is it an open door? Is it just a challenge that we're having? Is all about going to God and asking him for his perspective, his understanding of what's actually going on.
Hey, man, that's really good. And it also ties back to seeking first the kingdom of God. I mean, if we're saying we're pursuing this thing and we're trying to honor the Lord in this thing, how can we forget? And I know I'm just as guilty as anybody, forget to go back to the Lord and ask him to clarify, like, what's going on here? I feel like I've hit a wall. There's no progression happening. And what do I need to change? And sometimes it's like you said, it's not necessarily about change or redirecting. It's about just pausing and listening and waiting. And sometimes that can be one of the hardest things to do.
What if he has an investor waiting for you that that investor is processing through? Maybe that investor is waiting to sell a house so that they can be liquid, so that they can then pour that money into your business. Like, we don't know that stuff. So it's important not to just go, oh, well, this just must not be of God, and I just need to abandon this whole thing, right? Because that's a victim mentality, and we're really not supposed to live in that. So.
Yeah, that's really good. And that's one of the things, a word the Lord gave me for our local church here a year and a half or so back. He's like, things are going to happen through radical generosity. And then we started seeing money being dropped into our account from these generous donors that came out of nowhere. And then we got to a point where we're looking at expanding and taking on some additional space in the building that we're in. And we're praying about it. And I was really feeling a check in my spirit while we're praying about it. Someone donated $100,000 to our church.
That's awesome.
And it's like, okay,
That's
well,
so
here's
cool.
more than enough money that what we can need to recondition this space to what we need. And
Yeah.
now the Lord provided it. So here's your confirmation. Here's your sign, right? So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of misconceptions that we go through, and I know we've touched on some of those there. So I don't want to keep beating kind of that dead horse, right? But I want to kind of move on to the next part here. Is like, how do you define, or how has your definition rather of success transformed through your journey with God in business?
Um, Well, our ministry or our business actually started off as always ministry first model. I always had a full-time job, so it paid for us to live, and the business itself always supported the ministry that was actually happening. So recently, I'm no longer working full-time outside of the ministry, so we have transitioned and moved to a different business model of ministry supported by business. So now I'm working in this full time. So now we do need people to buy our products and services to help us to, support us as church planners and ministers so that we can do that ministry. So that's changed a little bit. So success is, it's still the measure is still how much ministry we can do. It's just now there's a little different stressor regarding how we do that. It's not just about me going to work. It's about me being able to do ministry all the time. We did talk about, you were talking about the misconceptions. I did want to, I wanted to say something because I think it's important understanding about integrating faith and business. One thing that we hadn't talked about, because I have to laugh at this. I had a conversation with the guy and everything he said was Jesus, 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 Jesus. And I love his heart that everything is Jesus. But when we're in business, not everything has to be Jesus. We don't have to have Jesus burgers or Jesus coffee, Jesus counters, Jesus buildings, everything, right? He created us. He's a creative God, and we can be creative too. This message of never too lost to be found doesn't say Jesus in it. However, this is the message that he gave me to change my heart posture to the people around me. Right? I was a hate-filled atheistic antichrist for over 20 years, and there were people, Christians, that hated me, that they reciprocated my hate towards Christianity. They reciprocated that hate to me, and that's not doing what God has called them to do. God called us to love, right? Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and then to do what? Love others, love the people around us. It doesn't say hate. He literally actually says to love the people that hate us, love the people that persecute us. Like, love is the only new commandment that Jesus actually gives. 613 commandments in the original Testament or New Old Testament, however you call that. In the New or Second Testament, the only new commandment that Jesus or Yeshua gives us is to love. That's it. So I think that's important in knowing these misconceptions, that ministry is, I guess, give yourself permission to be creative, to listen to a creative God and walk in that.
Yeah, that's really good. So what do you believe God is doing in the marketplace right now that most business owners aren't seeing yet?
This sustainable ministry model. We're seeing it start popping up even more and more, and there are so many people that are really coming alongside this, where we're seeing a calling back to intimacy with our relationship with God. So now we're not anti-modality in any situation. What I mean by that is we're not against any type of liturgy or size of church or anything else like that, or how a church does their thing. We've been doing micro churches or house churches for a couple years now, and we love how intimate and relational that is. But what we're seeing in this is there is still a need for buildings, because people a lot of times look at house churches and go, that's where cults start. Right? I'm afraid of that. Why don't you have a building? Why are you this? And there's too much crazy associated with house churches, right? So we look at those buildings, and that's really where this kind of sustainable model comes in, that there are businesses that are directly supporting the ministry now. If they have unused space, or maybe they even allocate specific space within their buildings for churches to meet, to have their small groups in, to come and gather so that they don't have to pay rent. And this is really a model that we're starting to see everywhere. I just met with somebody right north of us here, north of Salt Lake, and they literally have a strip mall, and it has a daycare. Oh, just dropped my mouse. They have a daycare, and that daycare basically pays for the rent for the church. A daycare and a coffee shop that they share space with. And on Sunday morning, what ends up happening is the daycare turns over into their children's church, and the coffee shop turns into the lobby and provides free coffee for everybody that comes on Sundays. And the church doesn't have to pay a dime for any of it, because the rent is paid by those two businesses that love and support the ministry through their efforts.
Yeah, that's really cool. I see that happening a lot. I helped start a church out in California where a guy went and purchased a vineyard with an event center so that he would be able to house the meetings that we were having. And it worked out really awesome. The other thing that I saw in that, what you're describing there, I call it digital missionaries. We earn our income. My wife and I both earn our income working online so that we can support the mission work that we're doing offline. So it's really cool how there's a lot of similarities in what I hear you saying that you're doing. And I think that's cool how God is always at work, and he's always like speaking to us corporately, even across state lines, around the world. He's doing similar things all throughout the earth. So what's one kingdom principle? And we have time. I was going to say we have time for one quick question, because we're a little bit out of time, but I want to get this in here because I think it's important. What's one kingdom principle that's completely transformed how you approach business?
Generosity. We hold our products and services loosely. If God tells me to provide a service for somebody or give something to somebody, I'm not balking at it for a second. I once heard a VP of sales once tell me, you can't spend percentage points and products sitting on the shelves are not fulfilling their purpose. So when we're generous, that forces us to trust that God is going to take care of us. He is our provider. He desires for us to be generous. So in order for us to be generous, that means he's going to actually have to provide. But if we're not willing to be generous and we're stuffy, we're kind of holding on to these things really tightly, then that doesn't give him room to bless us and give us more than we would ever need. So
that's generosity. Cool. Generosity is the key. I love that. So Steve, no doubt some of our listeners are interested. They're hearing all these different things that you're doing. That's really cool. They're interested in, like, how do I connect? How do I learn more? What would be the best way for them to go about connecting and learning more?
Nowfound.org. We have all of our services, all of our products, everything that we do right now is on nowfound.org. You can get a journal. This is one of our favorite things. We just actually published the Never Too Lost journal. It's a microgrid on the inside for the people that like to doodle, but the microgrid is also flexible for those who need structure. You can get that at journal.nevertoolost.com. I know that's a different website, not to be confusing. Nowfound.org is our main website, has everything, but specifically to pick up this journal, it's journal.nevertoolost.com. So
journal.nevertoolost.com.
Yes, sir.
So we'll drop that in the description for this episode. We're going to wrap up from here. I want to say thanks to our guest, Steve, for joining us and sharing your kingdom-focused journey. If you're a kingdom entrepreneur or a leader that's focused on seeing his kingdom come in your business and in everyday life, I want to extend a special invite to join us as a guest. Visit kingdomcampfires.com and you can apply there. And one more time, if you want to learn how to set up your own marketing assistant that's specifically trained to ensure you're able to reduce your workload and have quick wins with quality lead generation, client acquisition, standing out in an oversaturated market, and scaling growth and profits all on autopilot, visit sprintwins.com today. So that's a wrap for today's Kingdom Campfire conversation.
In fields where dreams and visions bloom, under stars we watch the flame. gather in the campfire's light, sharing God's vision for our lives, where sparks of hope and passion flare, bearing our hearts His light to share. Whispers of Holy Spirit's call echo in the hearts of all. Kingdom campfires, they burn so bright. God guides us with His holy light. Entrepreneurs with faith so bold, transforming the marketplace, co-creating kingdom gold. Beyond the fire, where shadows fade, by His grace He guides the way. Every heart on the mission field, together we shall see it built. A tapestry of faith and traits, where every thread is heaven made, sharing visions hand in hand. We light these fires across the land. Kingdom campfires, they burn so bright. God guides us with His holy light. Entrepreneurs with faith so bold,